hymns.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us today for our webinar on traveling with assistive technology, tips and tricks from the pros. And we have two speakers today, Damian Pickering and G. Wilkinson. I am Michelle Paley, and I'll be your Vanna White, so to speak. I'll advance the slides. If you have questions during the presentation, go ahead and enter them in the chat window, and I'll read them aloud so everybody can hear. We will open the mics at the end of the presentation, but we ask you to keep yourself muted while our presenters are speaking, just so that we have clean and clear audio. So, Dave, take it away. Or Damian.
We'll go
All
with
Dave. Right. Good afternoon and happy holidays to everyone, and thank you for giving up part of your afternoon to join us this afternoon. Michelle has referred to us off and on as professionals, and so the first thing I want to do is issue a disclaimer and dramatically lower the bar to say that I'm not sure if we're travel professionals or not, but we travel an awful lot. I'll have taken close to 40 trips on the road this year for hymns before the year is over. Damian, you're probably up to about the same numbers, so we certainly do this an awful lot. But considering some of the goofy
not just a disclaimer, but apologies. You know, we'll be what passes for professionals today.
We're as close as you get.
We play them on TV.
So, and the other thing I want to make sure of is that you all realize that we're just scratching the surface. We're hoping this turns into sort of more of a dialogue of other people's tips and tricks, what you use to be successful. We've got a few things that we really like that we'll pass along, and then we'd love to hear from you as far as some things that you consider to be successful for your travel tips and tricks as well. So with all of that being said, to me, one of the coolest things that's happened in travel over the last year or so is the advent of tiles. And if anyone doesn't know what tiles are, they're little square pieces of plastic that you can put onto anything. I have my trusty suitcase sitting here with a tile on it. My tile is an older tile. It's about an inch square and a quarter-inch thick. Now they're a lot thinner and cooler and snazzier, but my current tile refuses to die, so that's what I get. Have to use it until it's gone. You can find out more information about tiles at www.tile.com. I'm using my tiles with my Apple Watch. I find it more accessible than the iPhone. I do not know how accessible tiles are on the Android platform, but what I use tiles for most frequently are finding my luggage, whether it's on one of those little bends where it's been checked plain side or on a carousel where the bag is whizzing by. I get tired of my bag is navy blue, which is pretty close to black, which looks like all of the other bags that are on there. So my bag is set apart from all the rest of them when it starts to chirp at me. Tile communicates via Bluetooth with your phone and your Apple Watch. It does some really cool things in addition to just letting you know when your luggage is sailing by you. It can also tell you the last time that you saw it, so that if your bag didn't make a plane in a previous airport, your phone can probably tell you the last time that it saw that tile. There was a famous incident in the HIMS office where my luggage didn't make it onto a plane, and they were delivering it to my hotel, and it went by the office, and my watch notified me that my luggage was zooming by the office at that given moment. And it actually did that through an email bit. If you don't see your tile, you can mark it as lost, and then have an email sent to you when your tile is quote unquote found, i.e. when it's back in range. But just to sort of give you an idea. Yeah, go ahead.
Some other applications. I mean, occasionally, we end up in a hotel that doesn't have Braille on the door, and so leaving a tile, on your door or just inside your door, and you can go down the hall, and you can get your room to actually beep at you when you're in range. Do you want to mention also? I mean, there is a cost for these.
Yeah, there is a cost. I got a thing in my inbox today where they were selling tiles for $15 a piece. So they're pretty affordable. They're pretty indestructible. I have a friend who has them sort of duct taped to her recycling bin so that, when the guys come and the bin gets chucked half the way down the street, she can track down her recycling bin. I've known a friend that just for kicks had them on their guide dog's harness, and so the tile was going off as the dog was running around. Probably proof that there's too much time on our hands. But they're, $15, $20 a piece, somewhere in there. And to just sort of give you an idea how this works, I'm going to start up my Apple Watch.
While you're doing that, Dave, quick correction. The website is thetileapp.com, THETILEAPP.com. I went to tile.com last night, and it was not what I expected. So go to thetileapp.com.
Awesome. What I did was actually Google tiles, and then I followed directions. Open tile. So I told my watch to open the Tile app, and now it gives me a list of my different tiles. I have one called Dawn's Stuff, which is my wife's suitcase. Dave's Skis, which are hopefully in the basement. And Dave's Luggage. We want to find Dave's Luggage, so I'm going to double tap on Dave's Luggage. And so now it's loading. It's looking for my tile. And now it gives me a find button. And so I click on the find button. And in a moment, with any luck, there we go. Hey. And that little beeping you're hearing is the tile actually going off.
Location. Button. See just now. See just now. Look. Done. Button.
Okay, enough of that. There we go. And so now I hit the done button, and the tile is the tile is quiet. There's a little bit of a delay, so this isn't going to be instant gratification, but it's going to be close to instant gratification. And I love these things. I've been looking for luggage locators for years. I was using a beat-up old one from Sharper Image up until these guys came along. And I love the fact that they're mainstream. They're put out for the general population. I can get them from Amazon or wherever I want to get them. And they add a tremendous level of independence to my existence. So, yay, Tile.
Well, and you talked about tagging a guide dog, but I could see also tagging my children at Disney World because it's pretty hard to keep track of kids in public places, especially where there's cartoon characters.
Well, and for the sightlings out there, it gives you a map that shows you the last place that it saw your tile, which is really cool. The map is totally inaccessible, but if you tap on location, it shows you sort of a whole little map of where the last place it was that you saw your tile, so you could find, kiddos at Space Mountain.
Yeah. Okay, and then the next one, apps are your friend, airline apps.
Yeah, all of your major airlines, whether it's Southwest or American or Delta or United or any of these guys, have accessible apps that may be way easier than going through the internet. We all, I say we all, I think most of us all have these apps set up to where the airlines will send us texts for flight updates, for gate changes. A lot of the time I know my gate changes way before they're announced at the airport from the airline app of the airline that I'm flying. I also look at apps like Flight Aware, which will give me updated flight information. You can use hotel apps. One of my favorites is H Honors from Hilton to book rooms, to check in ahead of time. You can do virtually anything as far as booking your travel, checking in, arranging your travel on your phone. And when you're using your phone or your tablet, shameless commercial time, you can mute the speech and use any of the HIMS Braille displays, whether it's your U2, your U2 Mini, your Braille Edge, your Smart Beetle, or don't use the speech and still use your Braille display. But Damien, do you want to talk a little bit about some of the, Amtrak? I've used the Amtrak app before. All of these apps are just totally accessible.
Yeah, and the Amtrak app also kind of has a rewards program, so that when you get your tickets and rides through there, you're adding points for future Amtrak travel. I also use the Southwest app quite a bit, and there's a managed trips tag in there. So if you need to arrange with somebody to pick you up, I mean, it's right there on your phone, and it can remind you the flight number and the time and all of that, because that I don't always remember exactly what the flight number was or when I get there, and so just communicating with people, it's great to have all that information just ready to hand, as well as like you say, it's a little easier sometimes to check availability and flights and prices and things like that right on the phone, rather than logging onto a computer and dealing with the computer login Southwest page. I find the app a little bit more concise and easy to use.
One other thought, going back to tiles, if you're on Amtrak and you've gone to the dining car and you're trying to find your seat, just use a tile.
Yeah,
another look at you a little bit oddly, but you don't know them anyway.
That's true.
So we did have a question come through, and I hope I say this right. It's from Sarah, who seems to know you, Dave. They want to know how much this app costs. All of the apps so far are free, including the Tile app, right?
Right. Yeah. Well, the Tile app, what you're paying for the actual tiles, you're paying like $15 for each tile, but the app itself is free. All of these other apps, your airline apps, and most of your commercial apps are going to be free. The companies want you to use their apps to use their services, so they're going to be free.
And did we describe the tile, Dave? Did we talk about the size and shape and all that, or?
It's about an inch square and about a quarter inch thick, and that's the old tiles. Mine are the So Yesterday tiles from a year ago. Now they're like the thickness of a credit card.
Okay, and then next
and they seem to be pretty indestructible. Mine has gone on lots of plane flights and have survived.
The next slide says red carpet at the airport. Yes, please.
Yeah, and this is basically just something that a lot of people forget about a lot of the time when you're going through airports, or train stations, bus stations, whatever. All of these guys have assistants that they're willing to give you to get to your gate, to get between gates, which I think it's fair to say we all use a lot. I can get to my gate here in Louisville, and I can get to my gates in several other airports that I travel a lot in. But I go to a lot of airports where I don't know where I'm going, or I'm trying to get in between gates in a hurry in big airports. And so you get assistance from the folks at the airport. And the big reason that we wanted to have this slide in here was don't forget to tip these folks. They're not making a whole lot of money. They're providing an invaluable service and getting us from one place to the next. These folks aren't airline employees. A lot of them are making minimum wage or not much better. So take care of them. They're helping you out, and we just wanted to give a plug that, tip for good service goes a long way. And you're liable to see some of these folks again, and they'll remember that you were the person that tipped them, and they'll be that much extra nice to you in the future.
Yeah, and remember, it's not always just getting point to point, like to the gate or to baggage claim, or and to transportation and things. But there could be restaurants along the way where maybe you want to pick up a sandwich or coffee, or find a restroom, those kinds of things. So, especially if you have a lot of time between flights, there are things you might want to take advantage of. And I want to tell a quick story here too. So a lot of times they'll show up with a wheelchair, because you can ask for just a meet and assist is the term they use, but when you're actually booking your flights and tickets, it just says disability assistance, and so that in their world means wheelchair. So you can always just say, I don't need the chair, I just need a guide. But talk about times where you don't have a lot of time to make a connection. There was a time when I was making a connection in Chicago, and my original flight was delayed due to weather, and so we were, circling and circling and circling, and I should have had 2 hours between flights. And by the time I landed and waited for the assistant to show up, I had maybe 20 minutes to make my connection, and it was a long distance through the airport. And the guy showed up with a wheelchair, and I said, we can probably go a lot faster if I get in that chair and you run, can't we? And he said, yep. And so I actually did take a ride in that chair, and he really just, whisked from point to point. And so, sometimes we got to do what we got to do to make those connections. So I just wanted to share that story. I kind of put my pride aside and took a ride.
That's pretty entertaining.
Didn't have anything to do with technology, but except the wheel, maybe.
Except technology. Maybe the wheel.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad you got there. There is also, just to emphasize, though, a lot of the time you don't want them to show up with a chair or whatever. Just tell them, ditch that sucker. You can follow them. You don't, just because they show up with it, you don't have to use them. I think it's probably safe to say Damien never has, other than his one time in Chicago. And you can. There's no shame in just saying, chuck that sucker over to the side.
Now, other things, of course, when we are flying cross country, there are opportunities to get a little work done, or to catch up on pleasure reading. So, of course, we have our BrailleSense U2 devices, and we have our Blaze. Remember that there are power outlets usually at the gates, or sometimes there's charging stations for phones, and that again is a thing where the assistant can help locate you near an outlet. If you just say, I need to be able to charge some of my devices while I'm waiting, and I've got hotspots on my phone and whatnot, so I've been able to download some podcasts and things like that to listen to on the flight, and while I'm charging my devices. So that's pretty handy too.
Well,
and once you get where you're going, I'm sorry, go ahead.
If you really want to make friends at the airport, I have a plug, and it has 5 USB ports. So if you find that there are a bunch of people waiting for a plug, you can become the most popular person at the gate if you've got one of those with you.
And you might be able to trade power for assistance, which will give you power.
Very true.
That's true.
And once you get where you're going, I'm sorry.
Oh, finish your thought.
Oh, no, I was about to move on to the whole Uber versus Lyft bit.
Oh, perfect.
And sort of talking, once you get there, you obviously can take cabs, but a lot of us now are using Uber and Lyft. Both apps are extremely accessible. There are various cosmetic differences between the two. One notable difference between the two is that Uber does not have a part of the app where you can actually tip your driver, which again, if they're providing outstanding service, getting your giant trunk stuffed with all of your stuff that you can't live without out of the back of their car, a couple bucks. Whereas Lyft will actually let you add that into the cost of the fare on the actual app. Uber doesn't do that. They certainly don't discourage you from giving a tip to a driver, but it's going to be in cash. One of the things that I really like about the Uber app is that you can text an approximate time of arrival to someone. So you can, if I'm going somewhere that I've never been before, I can send you can text your ETA right from the app. Someone knows to look for you, stick their head out, make sure you go to the right building, all that kind of stuff. But they're the apps are both very accessible. You can on both apps you can track your car as it's coming to you. If you have your photo in the app, the driver can see you so that they know what you look like, since if you're like us, you're not going to be seeing them. We've just found them to be, the receipt is emailed to you. They're both quite wonderful apps. I don't know anything else really to say about them other than that they've been a tremendous help in being able to get from place to place.
I would add that it's not a matter of either or. I have both on my phone, and there are certain situations where maybe one might not be available, or one app might be in the process of updating, or there could be technical difficulties. Or sometimes, like Uber has what they call surge pricing, where demand is off the charts, and so it may, suddenly a trip that might cost you $15 is now costing you $30, and so that's where it could be, helpful to have an alternative. And I would say, just in case there's any trouble with one of your credit cards or a PayPal account, have a different card on file with each of the apps, just, again, because, I've been in situations where I got stuck somewhere and a credit card, I'd received a new version with a new expiration date, and so when I went to try to use the Uber app, it said there was a problem with my payment, and it was just because I hadn't updated that new credit card that I'd received. So having backups and alternatives is really helpful when you're traveling, because you just never know when some goofy stuff might happen.
One side note on that, we would include canes in that. I think Damien and I have both had canes that broke when we were on the road in the last year. So one of the backup things that I am never without now is a cane.
Yeah, in the last week that happened to me, in fact. But luckily, one of the places that I was visiting was the Center for the Blind in Salt Lake City, and I was able to just buy a new cane, so that was perfect.
And one of the ways that we were able to find the Center for the Blind, this goes down as one of the greatest segues in history, is by using GPS.
Aha! There you go.
How was that for awesome? And we have a number of GPS options that are listed here. You do have on your BrailleSense devices, your BrailleSense Plus or your BrailleSense U2, your on-hand or your mini, you do have access to Google Maps. For Google Maps, you do have to be able to have access to a hotspot, but you do have a built-in GPS receiver so that you can use Google Maps right on your BrailleSense. We have a number of apps that are listed here on for your iPhone, whether they're Blind Square, Seeing Eye GPS, my new personal favorite, Nearby Explorer, which APH just came out with for the iPhone, that also has a really nice Android app. And one of the things I like about it is that I find it to give you the most accurate, up-to-date live information about transit stops, so that I know if my bus is going to be late, that type of stuff. So that's a shameless plug that they now owe me for. But GPS, I've been using GPS in one form or another since the late 90s, and it's one of the things that have just become ubiquitous now. They're just part of what you've got. And I still find it tremendously entertaining to sit in the back of a cab or an Uber or a Lyft and mute the speech and look at GPS on my Braille display and tell the driver, oh, yeah, turn right up here. It's just fun to play with people's heads.
And even if you don't have one of the kind of the more blind-friendly apps, I mean, just the regular maps on the iPhone actually can be pretty handy. I mean, you can ask Siri, where am I? And, you'll get a location, but you can also get directions from, where you are to, a restaurant or a location or a Starbucks or something like that. We really need our coffee at HIMSS, and so we're always able to find a coffee place nearby.
And in case we're looking for coffee in our hotels, this again falls into the fantastic segues department. We can use our Blaze ET or EZ or KNFB Reader or any of a number of scan and read apps on our phone if we happen to be looking at the coffee packets in our hotel that we found through GPS to determine if the coffee is regular or decaf. So all of the scanning apps, whether you're using your Blaze or your iPhone or your Android device, the ability just to be able to have a tablet or a phone or a handheld device and scan just all the stuff that's in a hotel room, those little exit warning signs that are on the door, the menus that are on the desk, the coffee packets to determine if they're regular or decaf. Your scanning apps can be totally invaluable for those.
And also the little sign that you hang on your door that says "Do not disturb" or "Maid service requested." That's an important thing to get right.
Yeah, because they're on the same sign.
Right, so that's helpful. I mean, if you don't want somebody coming in, or if you do want somebody to come in, because those signs they're identical. So.
And obviously, if you're wanting to go beyond using the scanning programs, we do have live assistance available through apps like TapTapSee or Be My Eyes, or I got one the other day that was called Identify, or my personal favorite, FaceTime, where you just get in touch with someone you know, which in my book always ranks ahead of using some anonymous person who's looking at my stuff. But, if you're trying to determine, if what color a shirt is, and you're not sure if you trust the color detectors, or whatever odd stuff pops up in the hotel room. Is this, lotion or conditioner makes a difference on your hair? FaceTime a friend and ask them. My poor child has been FaceTime for all types of stuff.
And I've also used FaceTime in tech support situations. Where like maybe I needed to get a serial number off of, the bottom of a device or something like that. Of course, in the HIMSS products or blindness products in general, there's usually a place where you can get the serial number. But if it's mainstream stuff like an IP phone or a computer or something like that, being able to use that FaceTime, and somebody can direct you, turn the camera like a little bit to the right, or, move back a little bit, and then they're able to give you that information. So, think of all the times when you're by yourself somewhere and you just think it would be great to have a pair of eyes. Well, that's what that FaceTime does for you.
I don't have a really great segue for going into the whole photos bit, but we did want to point out that and I don't have experience doing this with Android devices, but on your iDevices, the cameras are really quite accessible. They can tell you if you've got a face in focus, if it's the center or the left. They can help you zoom in on objects to actually take pretty good quality pictures and videos. And we have listed here a book that I read a couple of years ago that helped me out a lot as far as just sort of getting a grip on what the optics were capable of on iDevices. The book is a year or two old at this point, but it's still an amazing resource by Judy Dixon. It's a book called Get the Picture that's available from National Braille Press. And my wife and I were just doing a bit last week where she was shooting, and my wife is also blind, and she was shooting a video of me looking at different animals and trying to guess what they were. It was for a project that she was involved in, and she was able to shoot really good video of me not looking particularly good. But she was able to do it in large part from tips from this book. So you can still be the photographer, vision or no vision. Your camera on your iPhone is quite a powerful device and will give you a lot of information about what you're looking at. Shameless plug time, you could also have that book on your Blaze ET, EZ, BrailleSense U2, Plus, Mini, any of our various devices that would have DAISY readers or be able to interpret BRF files. And while we're having shameless plugs, don't forget that after you've taken all those fantastic pictures and videos, that you can use your Go Vision to look at your pictures and videos on a 24 or 19-inch screen. The Go Vision has a USB drive, so if you have your photos or videos loaded up onto a USB drive, you can see them in full blazing color on a giant screen and zoom in and zoom out of different parts of them, and you've got all the power of a video magnifier right in front of you for a 24 or a 19-inch screen.
There we go.
And Damien, and if you know, I'm going to have you talk about audio recordings more than me. I've used Pocket Recorder a little bit, but you've used it more than I have.
Yeah, this is. I mean, of course, it's often time for us. I mean, I will document things not so much by photos because I can't see, but it's nice to be able to record certain things. Sometimes just a little conversation with friends or something like that. But meetings, different things like that. This can be a great way for us to document stuff to refer back to. So, of course, on our Blaze product, we do have a really nice recording app. There's a built-in microphone. You can also plug in a stereo microphone and get stereo recordings. The Blaze allows you to set the recording quality. So obviously, the higher quality recording is going to take more memory. There's 12 gigabytes of internal memory on the Blaze. Or you can also set it so that your recordings are saved to an SD card, which would give you a lot more recording space, and you could then, set higher quality recordings. There are various things on the iPhone that you can record, but our friends at Sweetman Systems created an app. It's I think $10 called Pocket Recorder, and it's very accessible, very easy to use. The documentation is built right in, so you can read the little manual. It lets you rename your recordings. So if you want to give them a meaningful name, you can do that easily using the dictate feature on your phone. You can just speak a name for the recording. It also makes it very easy to put your recordings in Dropbox to share with other devices and other people. So that's definitely something I would recommend pretty highly. And again, there are microphones that plug into the iPhone. I got one called Blue Mikey, and it's a very portable but powerful microphone. So I'm extremely pleased with the ease of use of the Pocket Recorder app and the quality of the recordings. And I think it's MP4 or something like that. But the format that the iPhone records in is something that you can use on all your devices. So you could play them on the Victor Stream, on your computer, on your U2, on a Victor Stream. I mean, any of the devices that you might have, you could use those recordings, and they would work for you.
So I've got a couple of questions in the chat window. The first, it's second, but I'll take it first because I think it's probably easier to answer. Does the voice memo app on the iPhone work as well?
It works. I find it to be a little bit more kludgy. You just have to go through more steps. I don't quite, without pulling them both up and sort of analyzing why one is easier than the other. The voice memo app is certainly a decent app. It's what we used for years. I just find the Pocket Recorder to be a little bit snappier as far as the general operation. There are fewer buttons to hit and click and all that type of stuff. But certainly you can just use the notes feature.
When there's an app that's created specifically for people who are blind, they tend to have fewer of the extras and tiny things to get messed up with.
Well, they just get right to the point. We don't worry about, stuff being spread out all over the place.
Right.
So I find Pocket Recorder to be easier.
The next question is, I don't have a Braille device except for the Focus 40 Blue display from Freedom Scientific and the Braille Light Millennium 20. What are some great GPS apps for my iPhone?
The ones that we have listed here are Seeing Eye GPS from Seeing Eye and the Sendero Group, Nearby Explorer, which is from APH, Blind Square. I've also used an app called Around Me a decent amount, but those three would be a good place to start, or any one of those three would do very well for you. And obviously you would have your Focus hooked up to your phone and just use your phone for the GPS program.
There's another thing that Sendero does that I think is, maybe just $5, and it's not a full-fledged GPS, but it's just called, What's Around or Look Around. And
yeah, Look Around.
Yeah, so you can just shake your phone, and it'll tell you like what street you're on, what address you're near, and then you can also have it give you like the points of interest that are on that block that you're on. So you can use it to just kind of track where you are and what's nearby. It's not as robust, something where you can like search for a Starbucks that might be, a mile away or something, but just kind of orienting yourself in a particular place, or if you generally know, where you're going, but you just kind of want to keep track of what you're passing by. That's a, very inexpensive, kind of pretty user-friendly app to have.
A free app that you can use, or a free method you can use to determine who's in the room or close by to you, thinking of Sendero Group, Mike May used to do this a lot and probably still does, is to just scan for Bluetooth devices. And you can look at people's Bluetooth devices, which usually have their name, Damien's phone, Dave's phone, or whatever. You can tell who's in the room with you.
Yeah, that's true.
Are there any GPS apps you guys can recommend for Android?
The Nearby Explorer from APH was actually available for Android first, and it's still very supported and well maintained on the Android side. It is the only one that I've used in an Android environment, so anything else would be pure hearsay.
That's it for the questions that are currently in the chat window, but again, I think it's sharing time now, so if you guys have tips or questions, we're happy to answer questions, but if you've got a tip that you do when you're traveling, go ahead and let us know.
Bring it on. We want to know.
Yes. So my question is the app free?
Some of your all of the apps other than the GPS app are free. Your GPS apps will vary in cost from, I think, Seeing Eye GPS is a subscription-based app. I think, what is it? Nearby Explorer. I forget the prices on Nearby Explorer and
now
Square.
I know that it does cost because I've heard them on Accessible World before. I've heard him, but I like heard at the price of it.
I would just look at the App Store for the most updated price. A lot of these guys have had sort of Black Friday, Cyber Monday sales, and so even if I could quote the price, it's liable to have changed. So I would just go to the App Store and see what the current price is.
Okay. Okay. What? Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay.
And then one tip for people, whether you have a disability or not, there's that TSA PreCheck, which requires some foresight. You have to apply and get fingerprinted and basically go through a background check in your hometown through the government. But once you've got that, it's a little bit easier to get through security, and it might help you at least kind of eliminate one hurdle on the way in anyway.
Although you're right, although I'll point out a downside to that. What I've found with TSA pre-check is that even when I'm pre-checked, they still end up ransacking my bags because of the Braille devices that are in the bags. They still throw them off, and it doesn't end up saving me as much time a lot of the time as I wish it did. So if you're going to be traveling with any assistive technology, pre-check may not be as streamlined as you want it to be. And
then another question, I'm not sure what they're asking about, but they said, how about Nearby Explorer, which I think is supposed to be Nearby Explorer?
Nearby Explorer. We love Nearby Explorer. It's a great app. It's available in the Google Play Store, the iTunes. It is not free. And it's not expensive. It's I forget what it runs. I think it's under $70, which, I mean, considering that it's getting you places without getting lost isn't the end of the world. It's free updates on the app. I think Blind Square is like $20 though. So if you don't want to pay that much for an app, then go for Blind Square. Again, the problem with pricing, if we quote you pricing on these things, is because they're not our products, the prices are changing all the time.
Yes. So I also want to mention that too. What are the differences between Nearby Explorer and the original Maps app and the original Maps?
I don't find that the Maps on my phone gives me as much information as what I'm walking past, the stores that I'm walking past. I can't look up transit information. On Nearby Explorer, if I'm in a city that has live Google Transit feeds, I can tell if my bus is late, how late it is, when it's going to arrive. So the Maps app is very good. It gives me a lot of information. It'll let me put in an address, and it will guide me there. But it doesn't tell me a whole lot of what else is around. All it does is get me exactly where I wanted to go.
Hey, one thing that when we were talking about coffee, I was going to mention and I forgot. At these different coffee places now, they've started giving you little plastic coffee plugs that plug up the little hole at the top of your coffee. And those are I would always ask if those are available, because when we're walking around carrying a cup of coffee, and if somebody jostles you or you run into something, then the coffee like shoots out of the top, and you get coffee stains on your clothes or things like that. So for blind people carrying coffee around, it's really nice to have those little plugs. And I actually just keep a few of those in my coat pocket so that if I end up getting a to-go coffee and they don't have those, then I can reuse them. I just find it's a real simple thing, but it's saved me having coffee spilled all over my clothes many times.
And what I hate about the spilled coffee even worse is that it deprives me of at least one swallow of coffee that I could have otherwise had.
Yeah, there you go. Those sips of coffee add up. Yeah, and so then, again, things like the airline apps and hotel chain apps and things like that are free. So there's a lot of free apps out there. The Tile app that we talked about, the app is free, but you do have to pay for the little tiles that you use with it. So, these are just some ideas, things that people might find helpful.
And the tiles, again, are like $15, and they're pretty indestructible. So you're getting good quality, for the money that you're putting out.
And if you guys have questions after the webinar, or you need assistance using your HIMS device with any of these apps, give us a call, 888-520-4467, or you can email sales@hims.com. hims-inc.com or support@hims-inc.com. And we're happy to answer any questions that we can, especially where it concerns your HIMS device working together with your iPhone and other products while you're traveling.
And we thank you guys for tuning in this afternoon. We'd like to wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Michelle, did you have one more question that came through?
No, I was just going to read. We had a comment, and they said, thank you very much, and happy holidays to everyone.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays to you all, too. We're looking forward to a very big and a very exciting year next year. So stay tuned. It's going to be a hymtastic time.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you for hosting.
Thank you much, folks. We'll see you next year.
Bye-bye.